Hello, Herkimer County. I'm Denise Cavanaugh, the new Executive Director of the Herkimer County Chamber of Commerce, and I am here to continue the great podcast that my predecessor, Michelle Hummel, has started. We love to introduce different people in the area. And first, to tell you a little bit about myself, I have a really varied background with some corporate banking experience, leadership in the not-for-profit world, and finally some higher education. And currently, I'm a business owner in Herkimer as well. I own a bed and breakfast. So being the head of the chamber is a great culmination of my experience. I'm loving to promote our area and to really look at our unique shape of a county and really to highlight all the special things that go on, support businesses, and hopefully bring more business into our area. I'd like to thank Dave Warner, our producer, who is here to guide me and direct me.
Help you along. Get you through the cold weather, the rain, the smoke, the fog, the whatever the heck is going on out there.
All of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
And my guests today, we're so excited to have people from the northern part of the country, from LIVINGADK. We have Robin Hill, the Executive Director, and Dan Kiefer-Back, the Community Development Specialist. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thanks for having us on.
Good morning. And first, I'd love you to both kind of introduce yourselves and give us some background of what brought you into these positions and into the area. And then really, I'm looking for information on LIVINGADK and what you do.
Well, wonderful. So again, good morning. I'm Robin Hill. I'm the Executive Director with LIVINGADK. Just letting you know, our official long name is Central Adirondack Partnership for the 21st Century, Inc. New brand name LIVINGADK. It's an easier mouthful and it's more relatable to the region we represent. But I am from Utica originally. My family moved away in 1968 to Ohio. We came back seasonally to take over Keyes Pancake House from my uncle Wes Keyes in 1976. We did that through 1988. So that really, I guess, bore my love for the Adirondacks and spending summers here. I moved away to Atlanta, Georgia in 1987. Met my husband down there, and then we decided we wanted to simplify our lives and I guess make our jobs more meaningful and impactful in a smaller community. So we moved to Old Forge permanently in May of 2017. So I came from a real estate property management background for 27 years. So now being the executive director for a non-for-profit was something totally new to me, but I've just really loved it. We don't get much snow in Georgia, so we were ready for the challenge of being in the North Country. Got the snowmobiles and, love to be outdoors all year round. So I'm just so happy to be back and hopefully making an impact in this community and our service region.
That's wonderful, Robin. What a great background. And I certainly remember Keyes Pancake House during that era. Is probably when I visited several times. Thank you. And Dan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Kiefer-Back. I'm the Community Development Specialist here for LIVINGADK. LIVINGADK is a small operation here. We just said yesterday we're 2.5 people. We have an office manager here, Sue, who also is here part-time. So small operation, but big impact. I'm originally from Rochester, but have lived in all sorts of different places in the country and returned to the Adirondack Park because I married my wife of 7 years at this point, who graduated from the town of Webb and whose family actually owns Souvenir Village right down on Main Street. It's been in business for 52 years. So I kind of married into the local business experience, and I've lived up here for the last 2 years and thoroughly enjoy hugging trees. And last year got to canoe into work. Like how many people can say that's a benefit of working in the park, right? So
Such a lovely area. It's great. It's so interesting that you both came into the area for family businesses too. So that's really great.
And Dan, you said you canoe to work? Is that what you said?
When we first moved here, actually, yeah, my in-laws live on First Lake, and Living ADK's office is right on the pond here, and right in quote unquote downtown Old Forge. So it was a swift, 15-20 minute canoe ride away in the morning. So
That's
you heard me
crazy.
right. I was out. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. Not many people can say
No,
that.
no,
Oh,
no.
no.
That's a plus.
That's great. Well, a few weeks ago, I spent a day with you touring the Old Forge area and meeting several of the business owners and hearing a lot about the initiatives that are going on and really becoming educated on Living ADK. So I would love you to both share with us more about what Living ADK does and what your plans are for new initiatives and ongoing initiatives.
All right. Well, I'll give you the history. So, a little over 22 years ago, there was a community group that got together. It was actually called Communities 2000, and I think that their goal was to represent things that were important to our service region of the Woodgate through Racket Lake, Indian Lake, Long Lake area, and they formally became a 501c3 not for profit. That's a mouthful. In 2001, again under that Central Adirondack Partnership name, and so I guess the goal was to become a resource to the expanded community, doing grant writing services, being that community facilitator who could take an interest of the groups and find solutions to problems. Some of the things that I've been charged with focusing on is the health and social service side. Dan will get it more into his tasks, but I kind of also am responsible for the day-to-day operations of our office here. We're located on the back end of the Adirondack Bank building, right here across from the beach. Um, so we are supported financially with some funding from the town of Inlet, the town of Webb, um, town of Indian Lake, town of Long Lake. The Central Adirondack Association has been providing funding, some supportive funding for us, I guess, starting in 2004. But the other part of the funding that sustains us is we are a membership organization. So we have an annual membership drive. We have an annual, I call the Cappy Duck Derby, which is the rubber duck derby down the Moose River every September, always Labor Day weekend. So that's another fundraising portion of our budget. And we're still trying to build sustainable funding that helps us, Dan and I and Susan, continue our work in the community. As you know, we are a not-for-profit. We do have a board of directors that helps to oversee the organization. They're trying to get them more involved in making contacts and being a part of our volunteer staff as well, because it's we've got a very senior community. We're a small community, and it just takes a village of volunteers. And so back in 2019, we created a health care committee, which was meant to, I guess, identify service gaps in health and social services for Northern Herkimer County residents. So we kind of put together a committee of retired or still active healthcare organization participants, because we don't know anything about healthcare. We're not a healthcare service organization, but we meet monthly, and we've made progress in bringing awareness to gaps in care up here. Herkimer County has been very supportive of the work that we're doing. We have ongoing calls with the legislature, the Department of Social Services, the Public Health Department, and a lot of the resource organizations like the Alzheimer's Organization or Hospice and Palliative Care or the Resource Center for Independent Living. Any organization that our community can benefit from, because frankly, we're geographically challenged. And so if we can get these organizations to make a trip up here once a month, and be available for our seniors, or, any person needing assistance with, healthcare navigation, or whatever it might be, that's our task to, to help bring those resources to our community members locally.
That's great, Robin. I know when I
Yeah.
was in the office, I saw you were doing an initiative with the Alzheimer's Association. Can you tell us a little
Yeah.
more about that?
Sure. We have folks dealing with dementia up here. I can't say I know every person because they're very private. But we had this past weekend at Inlet's Fern Park a fundraising walk to support caregivers for Central New York. So we reached out to, gosh, I think it was nearly 40 businesses in our community, and said, "Hey, we're having this fundraising walk. Would you like to donate a raffle prize, which will help us raise, more money?" And our goal was $1,600, and I think we were probably at the end of the day $2,200 in funds raised. So
Congratulations.
it was a small walk, but hopefully this is our second annual. So hopefully we'll build on that next year, which will be our third year. And um, it was a fun walk, even in the misty rain. And again, we just truly support, every organization that puts something out there to bring awareness to these initiatives. And we've had the Alzheimer's organization up here um, at our farmers market, which is another great resource that we have created since 2008. We created and administer the Old Forge Farmers Market, which is seasonal. So, and a lot of these resources that I told you about a few minutes ago, they do come and participate in the farmers market as well. Again, another way to get out in front of the community and expanded community that come up here and enjoy our farmers market.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Some of the other health initiatives, did I see something about a mobile mammogram unit as well?
Yes, we created a relationship with the Upstate Mobile Mammography. Upstate University Hospital had received a grant several years back. We started conversation with them, along with the Town of Webb Community Health and Wellness Fund and the Town of Webb board itself, to say, hey, this is a group that would be willing to come. I think the first year, it might have been 2018 possibly, that they came and were up here a couple times during the summer. And now it's like they're up here, gosh, I think 4 to 5 times throughout the summer and fall. So it's great that they park in the parking lot of the town offices on Park Ave. And, we advertise it through social media and printed flyers throughout town. And I take advantage of it. I think it's a great opportunity not to have to travel south to Utica or Syracuse for imaging annually, and so it's become quite popular.
It's so wonderful to hear about the
Yeah.
health and social services initiatives that you're doing. I don't think people typically would think that with Living 80K. And you think tourism and you think what goes on in a fun way up in the area. And it's great to have these initiatives because, as you say, you're geographically challenged to reach out to a lot of resources. So bringing
Well,
them in is great.
that's part of our motto, is everything that it takes to live, work, and play in the Central Adirondacks. So that falls right in line with that.
That's so wonderful. You mentioned the duck derby, so of course we have to talk about that. I believe that even on the website, Dan's picture is there holding a duck, aren't you, Dan?
I,
Always the promoter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, we sell ducks all summer long at the farmers market, at other various events throughout the summer. The ladies at the Old Forge Visitor Center are kind enough to also sell duck tickets on our behalf. So each duck is either $5 or a flock of five for $20, and so we have 19 great businesses that have consistently supported us with
Wow.
donated gifts. on our prize poster. So the first 19 ducks that come across the finish line are going to get one of those wonderful prizes. And they range from 2-night stays at, resorts throughout the area, or dining certificates, or cash prizes. Our first place prize is $1,000 that is donated in partnership with Adirondack Bank and the Enchanted Forest Water Safari family. So it's great. I think we clear maybe about $10,000 a year. Again,
Wonderful.
supportive towards our budget when all is said and done. And it's a very important, fun, family-oriented event. Again, it's the Sunday of Labor Day weekend. So come on up, buy a ticket, have the kids watch the ducks race down the river. It's a lot of fun. It's a
So
lot of fun.
are you able to buy ducks online on your website, Robin?
Not yet. The New York State Gaming Commission finally put out some rules and regulations surrounding the legality of selling raffle tickets online. So it's kind of a daunting task, and we're in the research phase of that right now, because there's an application, there's a lot of, I guess, guidelines that you have to create to answer these questions that are put out by the Gaming Commission in how you control access to the raffle online. It's all in protection of making sure that people that are buying the tickets are in the state of New York at the time that they're buying the tickets, and that you're of 18 years of age or older. So there's a lot of things that you got to do to meet the guidelines for the Gaming Commission to sell raffles
Yeah.
online legally. So probably next year, we'll see if it's financially feasible to do that.
I do
So,
remember that from my not-for-profit
Yeah.
days, and yeah.
so I think what that means is you have to come up to Old Forge ahead of time. You have to stay for a weekend, buy your duck tickets in advance, and then come back on Labor Day so you can see them go down.
Yeah,
Sure.
right. About how many ducks do you sell? Did you?
Oh, probably about 3,000.
Perfect.
That's a
Yeah,
lot of
we
ducks.
Yeah.
A lot of ducks. Yeah, a lot of fun.
And last year we had a drone that came over and did drone footage, and that's actually fun to watch the drones kind of go up, which they're just incredible and small and nimble, and it's a technology that I don't quite get, but the video footage that we've got on YouTube and on our website are pretty incredible to watch as well. So
Great way
um,
to watch the ducks, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is funny. I stand at the top of the bridge where we dump them from a front end loader, and it's like I have to say, "Don't touch the ducks. Let them, if they get caught in a branch or in the rocks, that's just the fun of it." And they're not going to win anything, unfortunately. But you know, regardless of whether you win something or not, you're supporting a great community organization that does good things for our expanded community, because we don't have an economic development organization up here other than Living ADK. And Dan's going to get into a little bit more about that, as to what his days are like. But we are that organization. You've got the Adirondack Foundation, who is wonderful, in the northern end and east side of the park, which they're very supportive of us. But there aren't any other service organizations that represent kind of the west and west central side of the park. We're it. So we're juggling a lot of balls in the air. And I guess as far as our organization, we've helped to bring over $13.8 million in grant resources to our region since inception.
That
So
is wonderful.
I think
yeah,
you're balancing a lot of ducks.
Yeah.
we
Not
are.
balls, not
Yeah,
ducks. Yeah.
Yeah.
they are ducks.
And I
So
know,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I was visiting, I know Dan and I got very educated about the region and the gaps in the area and how important what you do is. And we were talking about a lot of the challenges like housing and grant funding and so forth. So love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I can pick it up just a little bit. What the first thing of note, which I think is really interesting, is that in a lot of ways, people think of Old Forge as kind of or the town of Webb as the northern side of Herkimer County, but actually Old Forge is sort of the epicenter of the northern portion of the county. But when you're talking Stillwater and Big Moose and Twitchell Lake and Beaver
Beaver
River,
River.
these are places that are an hour from Old Forge and still within Herkimer County. So, we kind of are a hub for a lot of these smaller townships that may not have access to some of the resources that are available in other places. So I just like to point that out to kind of give a quick geography lesson to folks. And Living AK is really uniquely placed in that we're very flexible. I think a lot of other not-for-profit organizations have very specific guidelines of exactly what they're doing at any moment in time, and you're focused on, food access or healthcare or something very sort of specific. And we're a unique organization and a unique model because we can be very flexible. Especially when COVID hit, we could drop everything and focus on that. Right now the biggest challenges to our communities is housing access, food access, and so we're able to kind of pivot and say, all right, what programs are going on that can help out our residents? What programs are other people doing in other parts of the country, other parts of the county, other parts of the region, and sort of translate those and transplant those with our residents. So that's why we're a little bit different than most other not-for-profit organizations, and why I think we're a great model that other communities may want to look into, is that unrestricted, flexible approach to working within communities, and a boots on the ground approach. I mean, Robin and I know every head of every 501c3, and you walk into the grocery store and we know all of our neighbors and have that type of relationship, which makes for um, great feedback to know kind of what we should be doing day to day.
And that's definitely how I felt during our visit. We just walked up and down the street and went in the different businesses, and the energy and the collaboration seemed to be really high. And I really appreciated how people were talking about, what's next? What can we do together? How can we build our community? Well, Dan, one of the things that I thought was very interesting too was to hear more about the housing challenge and the employment challenge. I think a lot of people don't realize how few year-round residents are in your area and what that means to the businesses and to employment.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I think the Herkimer County Chamber and that you all understand is that our local economies are not just about the businesses within those economies, but also the health of the residents, and the access to workforce, and sort of like all these other ancillary things that are important to like healthy economies, which is sort of where we step in. Um, and the biggest challenge is commoditization of housing, and um, the tendency for this to be a place that people want to come and live and purchase a home in, whether that's their primary home or their secondary home. But being in the Adirondack Park, there's limits to development, right? One of the beautiful things about the Adirondack Park is that it's wooded, and a lot of protections and environmental protections, and that help with that aesthetic, and that's why people want to come here. But one of the challenges is that building up here is a near impossibility, just because of limited land uses. So you kind of have a finite amount of housing stock, and so as there's a tendency for some of that housing stock to be purchased by second homeowners, or investors who are turning them into short-term rentals, or just all of these sorts of factors coming together, the unintended consequence is just that there's not a lot of room for entry-level homes or family homes for folks maybe of my age or something like that, who may pick up a second job as a local waiter or waitress or a bartender, or doing some of these jobs that are really important for the tourism economy. So just like it's a nationwide issue, or a statewide issue, a countywide issue, everything up here is just a little bit more concentrated. So those problems are just amplified a little bit more. And so I think one of the major challenges for our local economy and for the tourism experience when you come up here is to have businesses that are open 7 days a week when you want them open, or they're not closed on a Tuesday, or they they can offer their full menu, or they can offer the services that you need when you need your landscaping done or your your walk shoveled. And some of these things are just as important to the healthy community as a healthy economy. So been one of the challenges that we've sort of picked up. Juggling ducks, I think, is an understatement for sort of how complicated these things can be. But it's been interesting the last few years learning about sort of the opportunities that are out there, and that it's something that a lot of our community members recognize and say, hey, we need to come up with a solution or solutions, and that's what we're here for. So.
And actually, right after I visited you, I know a restaurant in our area, Toca Boca, was opening a second site in Old Forge, and I met one of the waitresses who said she was going to go up to work in the Old Forge uh, restaurant location, and she said, "I'm going to tent for 4 nights a week because I live down here, but that's going to be what I will do to help start the business up there." So it was clear how the seasonal challenges of getting employees, which I think the whole county and the whole area is experiencing, trying to be open more post-COVID. Many of the businesses are saying, it's hard to get employees back, and therefore their hours have been reduced a little. So it is a challenge.
One thing I want to say, how we pivot very quickly. We were talking about the pandemic, and I'll try to make this a short story, even though it's a lovely story. We created a Central Adirondack COVID-19 Relief Fund back in 2020. It started off with one of our community members presenting $300 from a neighbor who said, give this to someone who could use it. So we created this committee made up of community residents and some of our board members and staff, and we raised over $211,000.
Amazing.
No red tape other than we created an application. We had a screening committee, confidential screeners who were reviewing the applications, and our office, being the fiscal sponsor, was the one designated to distribute those funds out to whether it's a propane company or a mortgage company or whatever, again, helping those people that were negatively impacted financially by the relief by the COVID pandemic. And then you had to live and or work in our service region. And then we also raised $150,000 for local small businesses who were negatively impacted. So, again, we helped 23 small businesses. We probably helped nearly 200 people through the COVID relief fund. So these are ways that we've tried to help the business community and the people that work for those businesses, during that pandemic period.
What a
So
great model that is for and could be for many other areas. That is really remarkable. And not having the restrictions and the red tape to go through to apply for some funds that are needed is just
right.
priceless. Yeah, that's so great.
And we created the workforceadk.com website. Dan, you might want to give them a little understanding about that. And again, that was to centralize and be more relatable to our business owners for this region. How they can better have a resource where people who want to work here, one-stop shop. Go to this website.
Absolutely. We just try to find those cracks to fill in. And, Indeed and Monster and sort of all of these other online job hiring sites are fantastic, but they generally have a catchment area of around the country or around the world. And to your point of, if you don't have a house, you're living out of a tent for 4 to 5 days a week is I think a lot of our workforce does, which is a major challenge. So one of the things we identified was, who's within our commuting distance, who lives 35, 40 minutes away, who'd be willing to drive up here to take a job in the Adirondacks and, hug a tree for a day and enjoy their drive, especially during the nice months. And so that's how Workforce ADK was born. Just to target commutable distances from Boonville and Remsen and Little Falls and Lyons Falls and um, these places where folks might actually hop on the car and drive 45 minutes up here. So
It's an hour and 15 minutes from here, Dan. I'm just telling you. That's a long 45 minutes. And you get those ducks right, all right?
Well, and
Lions Falls, not Little Falls.
Yeah, okay, all right. I was
Too
going
many
to say.
falls. This is falls. Beauty of New York,
falls.
right? Falls everywhere.
Yeah.
So we're so lucky.
well, in Lewis County, public transportation now has a bus that comes up here too. So, if you can get those Boonville, Port Leyden area employees that want to take a ride for $1 and not have to put the gas in their car, that's also a great resource supporting the area.
It certainly is. Again, in some of our conversations, we were looking at ways that we can really join the southern tier and the northern tier more together. It has been an education for me to look at the whole county. And I heard it described as it's an hour and a half long and about 30 minutes wide. and getting used to all the different townships and so forth. So I know, we were brainstorming and dreaming, Dan, about doing hopefully getting the Herkimer County Chamber Board to have a meeting up in your area and to transport them and have some of the experiences that I got to have, and to really start collaborating more on what's going on in both parts. The wonderful tourism in your area could be experienced more by the residents of the county on some of those off-season times where, it's not as busy, because we can make an hour and a half drive up and enjoy a day. So hopefully we'll see more and more collaboration going forward.
Yeah, we've got to thank you, Deb, for coming on up and visiting local shop owners and meeting with the Central Adirondack Association and meeting with the town supervisor and taking a walk in the shoes of folks up here. And I think that means a heck of a lot. I know your predecessor Michelle also did a good job of that, and Herkimer County with Deb Kessler, their new hire there with the community development specialist manager. I forgot what the job title is.
She does stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Development stuff.
it's been wonderful, like, just to get all these folks walking down the street, and it's like, all right, this is excellent. So thank you for making the effort and for being a part of our community.
Well, and we really would like to encourage even more of that and get some bus trips going back and forth. And we know we're going to invite you folks down when it's a little less busy in your area to spend a day down here just touring around as well.
Well,
Go ahead, Ron.
I was just going to say, Dan's been doing a great job in reaching out to all of those business support organizations, such as the Chamber, the Herkimer County IDA, the SBDC, the SBA, and bringing those resources up for like stakeholder meetings and all in one place, that the business owners up here and expanded area, in town of Inlet, that can take advantage of meeting all of these wonderful organizations that are here and willing to help and support our business community, that they're here willing to come to town. So we so appreciate that.
And it is so important just to get educated on what different organizations are available and what they do, what their specific areas do. We at the Chamber are, thanks to Dan and a connection he made, we're going to become involved in the Center for Business in Transition, which I'll talk about at some future podcasts more in depth. But those kinds of connections are so important. So I'm very pleased to have you guys here today. Is there any new initiative, anything on the horizon that you'd like to talk about before we close?
Well, Dan, I don't know if you wanted to just quickly talk about the Living ADK Indeed Housing Legacy Program. Just give them a little.
Yeah, boy, you guys got those long names going, don't you?
Yeah.
Love to hear that. I
You're
saw that
trying
on
to
your website.
To describe the entire program
In one
title.
line.
In the title.
Okay.
It can be a little bit complicated. I will briefly say, if you have any questions about this new program that we've helped to transplant from a program out in Vail, Colorado, that was helping to tackle some of their housing issues, because of course everything out there from the resort town perspective is just, there's 50 years ahead of us in dealing with some of these same issues that we're running into now. I'd encourage you to visit livingadk.org. LIVINGADK.org, and check out the Indeed Legacy Housing Program. It's a program that aims to figure out ways of compensating current homeowners to restrict their home. So that way, when it goes up for sale or is sold, that it's sold to a primary resident and isn't turned into an investment property primarily. And the goal with that program is to just readjust our housing stock. Housing is an ecosystem, and you need to have all layers of that ecosystem sort of in balance for a healthy community and a healthy economy. And so it's one of the tools in our toolbox to help rebalance that formulation. So please reach out to myself, reach out to Robin if you're interested to learn more. We'd like to share sort of the trials and tribulations of taking a program that's never existed in New York State before and sort of translating it to our unique set of circumstances. But we're proud of it and excited to share that. We don't want to keep that proprietary knowledge. We want all communities to have access to these programs that we're developing or making better or honing, or I don't know, use whatever sort of adjective you want. But
That's terrific. Thank you so much for sharing that. Robin and Dan, I really appreciate you being here with us today and really enjoy looking forward to even greater collaboration. So thank you so much. And I'd like to thank our listeners and ask you to look forward to our next podcast. In closing, I'll close with a quote: "Be the change you wish to see in the world, Mahatma Gandhi." Thank you very much.